toughen border security. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that we have strong border control.
The American people are angry that the federal government has failed to protect and secure our borders.
Secure our borders while at the same time recognize the economic and social reality.
Of course we need to secure the border. We need to have an employment verification system with a card to identify who's here legally and not legally.
And I will make it a top priority in my first year as president, not only because we have an obligation to secure our borders and get control of who comes in and out of our country, not only because we have to crack down on employers who are abusing undocumented immigrants instead of hiring citizens, but because we have to finally bring undocumented immigrants out of the shadows.
Well, sealing our nation's borders and stopping illegal immigration has been a contentious issue for quite a while now, both in politics and in the press. This week, the issue really heated up in Arizona after lawmakers in that state passed the nation's toughest law against illegal immigration, making Arizona ground zero in the debate over how to deal with the millions who sneak into this country every year. Opponents took to the streets in protest, attracting media attention and reports like these.
Riot police were called in to try to control demonstrators protesting outside the Capitol. Most were peaceful. A handful threw bottles at police and were arrested.
Anger in Arizona against a new law allowing police to make you prove you're in the country legally.
They're just focusing on us because we're brown.
All right, so the question is, after watching parts of those two reports, where's the context, Bill? I mean, there seems to be this drumbeat in the media of sympathy for the illegals coming across and the effect of this law on them, and no sympathy for the people of Arizona who are putting up with, well, the governor says 87% of the illegals in that state have criminal records.
Well, you notice when on the national stage we talk about immigration, it's called comprehensive immigration reform, which of course is a loaded word which means betterment. When Arizona passes an immigration law, it's called the controversial Arizona immigration law. And the press has described this from everything from, Nazi Germany to Soviet Russia to apartheid in South Africa. They've talked about, police state. I think the coverage has been over the top. It's been overheated. And I think it's because the Democrats, first of all, never really thought they were going to pass immigration reform on a national level, but they suddenly seized on this controversy in Arizona to rile up their base, turn them out for the midterm elections, maybe help Harry Reid, who's in trouble, the Senate Majority Leader, but they really don't, they want the issue, they don't want the legislation nationally.
What about some of the language, Judy? I mean, people like Joy Behar are calling it fascist and Nazi-like, using words like that. When that gets printed and reprinted in the media, I mean, how responsible is that?
Well, Linda Greenhouse of my former newspaper, the New York Times, said that it showed that America was becoming a police state and compared it to the worst aspects, some of the worst aspects of the Soviet Union. Look, I think the debate in the media, and there is a debate in the media, mirrors the passionate debate that Americans have about this issue. And all I know is that for the Democrats, it's a godsend, because if you want every Hispanic voter in America to line up with the Democratic Party, you just look at Arizona and say, this way, ladies and gentlemen.
Judy, the debate in the media doesn't mirror the country. The debate in the media, there is no debate in the media. I started looking for all the columnists who were denouncing the Arizona law, and there's so many I lost track. I instead counted the ones who were in favor of it. I counted George Will, and that was about it. The country supports this bill, according to Gallup and Rasmussen. The media are 50-1 against it. That is not a mirroring. That is a funhouse mirror of public opinion.
I saw lots of conservative pollsters. I saw lots of conservatives quoted on the web.
Did you see them on CBS? Did you see them in the New York Times?
No, but I saw them on cable news.
Ellis, I'm from Colorado originally, and I remember growing up there. Washington seemed like such a foreign place. And you just get the sense that a bunch of people in Washington are saying, oh, those crazy cowboys in Arizona, they're making life so difficult for these poor cooks and dishwashers who want to come across the border and work. I mean, is there any balance here?
Well, that's part of the story. I mean, what's interesting and what really propels the debate here is that you have conflicting values, right? I mean, you saw in our opening bite all those people who want to secure the borders. That's become a buzzword that anyone can sign on to. Yet at the same time, guys, there really is a human story from the Latino perspective on this thing, the immigrant perspective. What we have is a clashing set of values here. There's no easy answer to it, and we've all failed at dealing with it. That's why it's such a great story.
But does anybody want to say attaboy to the Arizona lawmakers
well,
for
some people are doing what? How many profiles do you need to see, Jim, before you remember one of a poor rancher with people running across his lawn? I've seen that story written 100 times.
The rancher got murdered. Yeah, I mean, I actually didn't see a lot of coverage about him.
Well, I'll send some to you. There's been a lot of poor rancher stories.
Remember how crazy
in this
the
mix.
press went when somebody drew a little Hitler mustache on a poster of Obama at a Tea Party rally? But when we have an immigration rally where leftists were protesting and smeared refried beans in the shape of swastikas on the Arizona State Capitol building, there was much less coverage of that. I mean, think of how wrong that is on so many levels. They're using refried beans, talk about stereotyping Mexicans.
And a waste of good food.
And swastikas, and it was sort of like, well, it shows their anger, their legitimate anger.
And these protests are described as mostly peaceful when police are getting hit in the back of the head with water bottles. You compare that to the Tea Party coverage,
right?
Where the crowds were
everything you need to know about
violent.
this is if some of the protesters are calling themselves the Tequila Party, get it as a play on Tea Parties, and the media, oh, that's fine. If the Tea Parties had called themselves the Whiskey Party, every media story would have said these drunken idiots are out there, you know,
But
the bias is so thick you can't believe it, except with one glorious exception. Mark Stevenson from AP went to the trouble in Mexico of covering how Mexico treats illegal immigrants coming in from Central America. And he says they are robbed, raped, and killed in great numbers. Good for him.
Yeah, one of the reasons they're coming, but I mean, can't we agree? There's a lot of harsh and ugly rhetoric on both sides of this thing. Don't just hear half of it.
All right, time for a break.